What's going on, everybody? Aidan from Birds vs. Boys here, reacting to the Eagles' win over the Rams as they move to 5-0 with a 23-14 win at SoFi Stadium today. It was an emotional win at times. It was a dominant win at times. It was a momentum-shifting win at times. It was probably their most complete performance of the season, even though it probably didn't feel that way at first, but they got it done, and they are undefeated in 5-0 back-to-back years for the first time in team history. They were phenomenal in the second half and a bunch of different aspects. But let's start with the defense, because what they were able to do in the second half against the Rams team that was trending towards a shootout in the first half was nothing short of phenomenal. Sean Desai has been a name that has come up in terms of possible coaching vacancies at the end of this year as he elevates from defensive coordinator to head coach. That will get louder with that performance in the second half. In the first half, it did not seem like they had any answer for the return of Cooper Kupp, coupled with Puka Nacua. They were taking shots, and it wasn't good because it was like Eli Ricks was covering him, Mario Goodrich. There was a time when Nicholas Morrow was on Cooper Kupp, the 2021 Player of the Year in the NFL. It just wasn't going to work. Well, they come out in the second half. They make some adjustments. They held the Rams to under 100 yards and 0 points. It was incredible. I think part of that was bringing in Bradley Roby. They probably didn't want to play him as he got his sea legs under him since he hasn't been with the team more than, 72 hours at this point. But they were like, oh, fuck it. Might as well. Let's put him in. It can't be worse than this. So kudos to them for making that adjustment. They had Darius Slay shadowing Cooper Kupp for some time, just being, on an island with him. But the biggest thing, the pressure that they were able to get in the second half, it started on the very first drive. Jalen Carter gets a sack. He almost forces a safety in the next play. You have 3rd and 26. And even though that drive continued because it was a phantom face mask call, you could tell the pressure was different. We'll get into why, and I think a lot of it has to do with the offense, but the pressure was just different. They were able to get to Matthew Stafford, and they were able to get the Rams offense off the field. And once they did, the Eagles offense had these long sustained drives of double-digit plays, 6-7 minutes, and the easiest way to stop Stafford, to stop Kupp, to stop Nacua, just don't have them on the field at all, which is what they were able to do. And we'll talk about Haason Reddick here too. Back-to-back sacks. And I think that's what matters most. Is I'm a guy who I'll look at the clock and I'm like, all right, well, if they get a first down here, that'll take 30 seconds and then it'll be down to 2.5 minutes. How about we just get back-to-back sacks and seal it and go home? It was one of the moments where you're proud to be an Eagles fan because it's 4th and 12. He had just gotten a sack. It's loud in the opposing stadium. He gets incredible burst off the line. Running back didn't even know what to do. He sacks Stafford. He goes nuts. Game over. Sirianni's going nuts. The sideline's going nuts. And then they pan to the crowd, and it's nothing but Eagles fans in there erupting at this momentous occasion and game. I just thought it was such a cool moment, and what's been a string of cool moments for Philadelphia fans this year. And it was just the perfect cherry on top, slam, last nail in the coffin for that defense, who was absolutely incredible in that second half. So thank you to Sean Desai, who will probably get paid handsomely for performances like this. Thank you to all the 9 teams ahead of us in the draft who didn't want Jalen Carter. That seems to be working out really well. And thank you to the doctors for getting that cast off of Haason Reddick's hand and wrist, because he was not lying. He looks like a different guy without that cast on his hand. 3 sacks in the past 2 weeks. And even Josh Sweat, I thought he made some plays. There was a play where there was an errant throw that Josh Sweat caused, and he just seemed to be in the backfield a lot. And this comes on a day where they didn't have Fletcher Cox. This is a guy I was going to say he was dominant for the first month. He's been dominant for the past 10 years, and they didn't have Marlon as well. So they're down some depth on that defensive line, and it felt like they weren't able to get stops in the first half. And all of a sudden you're like, uh-oh, this could be bad. And they all got pressure when they needed to the most and got stops and got off the field. So I thought it was another incredible job by them of just getting the stop that they needed. And it's something I've been critical of them this year and last year as well. Maybe this is the difference between Sean Desai and Jonathan Gannon. But part of what was going on with the defense was the offense. 17-play drive for a field goal. 10-play drive for a field goal. Even the drive where they punted, 9 plays. They ran close to 70 plays and had 2/3 of the time of possession. They have again dominated in so many different ways and did so again today with key 3rd down conversions, Hurts using his legs, DeAndre Swift and Kenny Gainwell breaking tackles, Dallas Goedert was utilized, and A.J. Brown, of course. I'll get into Brown when we talk about the end of the first half because I thought that was the key to the game. But the second half, getting behind that offensive line and just being on the field. They're endlessly on the field. And Greg Olsen brought it up a few times. earlier in the year, including today, teams don't want to give up the home run. They don't want to give up the deep shot. They don't want to be in a position where in the shootout with the Eagles and they're giving up a ton of explosive plays. Well, what's the counter to that? 8-minute drive, 9-minute drive. That was a 17-play, 8-minute drive that put them up 23-14 and eventually sealed that game when the Rams got the ball back with 4 minutes. It's what they've been able to do all year long. I call it the fuck you drive in the fourth quarter when they go 7 minutes and you just can't get them off the field, and you know that they're going to try to run the ball, and you still can't do anything about it. The tush push again, you can't do anything about it. I don't care how much you cry about it. It doesn't matter. They can't stop it. They couldn't stop it today. They ran one for good measure on that last drive too and got it. I thought Hurts on the very last play with about like a minute left when he reached the ball over, I thought he got it that time too. It's just an incredible job of executing in high pressure moments. That's why they're 5-0. That's why Jalen Hurts is 22-1 in his last 23 starts, because in high pressure moments, nothing really gets phased with him, and he's able to make big throws. He's able to make big plays. Nothing really phases him. Nothing really seems to phase this entire offense. That is why they're 5-0 again for back-to-back years. In big moments, they come through. Speaking of big moments, this was the key to the momentum. End of the first half, the Rams go up 14-10. Puka Nacua catches a touchdown pass over James Bradbury, and it's on a 3rd and 10, and you're thinking, this defense can't get a stop. This defense can't get off the field, and you're going to go in the halftime down by a touchdown or down 4. That 32-second drive was a thing of beauty. The utilization of all of A.J. Brown's best skills, his physicality, his run after the catch ability, and his just ability to make big plays was on point. It was awesome. It was so well executed. It completely shifted the momentum, and it released something where I thought it allowed the defense to tee off, and I think it settled the offense, and they were a lot better spot coming out of the half than they were going into it like you thought. 32 seconds, 3 timeouts, and they didn't even use all 3 timeouts. I thought that was awesome, and a lot of it was A.J. Brown. Let's talk about him and how dominant he is and how he outperformed Cooper Kupp, the 2021 Player of the Year in the NFL. Since the argument that everybody made a big deal with A.J. Brown on the sideline in week 2, here are his stats since that point. 24 receptions, 433 yards, and 2 touchdowns. It's nothing short of dominant. It's nothing short of phenomenal. And that 32-second drive where he was the issue for the defense was the reason that the Eagles won the game today and completely shifted the momentum. A.J. Brown is a bona fide superstar and is exactly what I expected after that sideline flare-up. Speaking of the flare-ups, is this just going to be a thing the rest of the year where they show these sideline shots of the Eagles like having animated conversations? We just talked about the A.J. Brown one. There's a Nick Sirianni one with Jalen Hurts today. There was a Jason Kelce one with Jeff Stoutland and with Nick Sirianni where he was fired up. We've all played sports before, right? Like, you just don't like, it's not like book club where you sit around and you're like, that was an interesting play. Yeah, what did you see here? What did you think? No, you're fired up. It's competition. I can't believe that we watched like a 10-part documentary on The Last Dance during the pandemic, and everybody came out of that and said that what set aside the difference with the Bulls and why they were so good is how driven and committed and competitive they were. It didn't matter if they were mad at each other. It didn't matter how fired up they get. Yeah, there was intensity. Yeah, there was practice fights. Yeah, there was all this stuff, but that's what drove them to win. And then you see it on the sideline where Jason Kelce's talking to Nick Sirianni. You're like, oh my God, he's so mad right now. Oh, A.J. Brown said a mean word because he wasn't getting the ball. Why is that okay? And it's like, oh, this great team. And then the Eagles are doing it. It's like, oh, is there controversy in Philadelphia? They're talking loudly on the sideline. No, it's because they're good, and it's because everybody on this team is competitive. I want more of this. Show me another sideline shot next week. If Zach Wilson goes down the field 75 yards for a touchdown, I want everyone screaming their heads off on that sideline. It's good. It breeds competition. This is an intense team. They rise to the moment because of stuff like this, and they rose to the moment again today. So big things today. The long drives, I think it'll continue to happen. It's just like teams can't get them off the field. They didn't even really it wasn't even a huge DeAndre Swift game until the end. Jalen Hurts, most yards running this year. I thought he utilized his legs in big moments, which is what I like. The 1 3rd down, I honestly thought he sprained his ankle or broke his foot because it looked a little awkward. I was like, oh boy, but he was able to run through that, make big plays. And as a defense, it's just backbreaking when you have to deal with that. A.J. Brown, 6 receptions, 127 yards. He outperformed Cooper Kupp, which is amazing. The defense in the second half completely shut them down. I hope that kind of, awaken something in them where they're able to get more and more key stops and string that together as they get solid ground in that secondary. They'll get Nakobe Dean back. They'll get Fletcher Cox back. Feels like they're starting to be more solid, and it feels like Sean Desai has a real good grip on them. And Haason Reddick is another big part of that. The cast is off, and he has 3 sacks in 2 weeks. So all of these things, they seem to be – the big thing was, and I think it's because Nick Sirianni said it, you don't want to be playing your best football in October and September. You're trying to work your way to that. Well, this is the best that they have looked so far, and it feels like there's moments where they're getting better and better each week. It's not the most points they've scored, but it definitely felt like it was the best that the offense had performed and executed, and I thought they did a really, really good job. They probably score 30 again. Of course, Watkins is hit in the end zone when he was standing there wide open by himself. They're probably scoring 30 if Jalen Hurts doesn't throw the interception in the corner of the end zone. But they were dominant. They were phenomenal. I think the 32-second drive saved the undefeated season right there. And again, it's because of how good A.J. Brown is. And we didn't even touch on the fact that Dallas Goedert had his breakout game, 8 receptions, 118 yards, and a touchdown. More and more of that. Like, the more people have to worry about, the tougher it's going to get. Then Devontae Smith only had 1 reception. Well, guess what's going to happen next week? Then you're going to key on an A.J. Brown, who has 430 yards in the past 3 games. You're going to try to stop him, and Devontae Smith's going to be the guy who's open again and again and again. So I think they're in a great spot. I'm so excited. What a weekend for Philadelphia in general. 2 big road wins between the Eagles and the Phillies. You cannot be happier than how this Saturday and Sunday weekend punch went between the two. So we'll be back this week with our full show. Looking ahead, Eagles play the Jets. 49ers, Cowboys will recap that one as well. Big moments in the NFC East here as we hit the quarter point of the season. It's a good time to be a Philly fan now. So we'll talk to you then.